Welcome to Beyond by Wings, the business side of dentistry, brought to you by Edwards & Associates PC. Join us as we discuss how to build your dental practice, optimize your income, and plan for your future. This podcast is distributed with the understanding that Edwards & Associates PC is not rendering legal, accounting, or professional advice. Listeners should consult with their business advisors before acting on any of the information that is shared. At Edwards & Associates PC, our business is the business of dentistry. For help or more information, visit our website at enassociates.com. Hello and welcome to another episode of Beyond by Wings. In today's episode, we have a very special guest. Her name is Jessica Jones, and she is the CEO and founder of Build Your Cash Medical Practice. I remember when I first saw her one sheet note that she was interested in becoming a guest on our podcast. I just couldn't wait to have her on. I just felt like, you know what? She would be perfect to inform our listeners about what she has going and how I think she can be very helpful to our listeners as well as our clients. So without further ado, Jessica, how's it going?
Wonderful. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. So, I have the sheet in front of me, so I know a little bit about you. But for our listeners out there, would you mind sharing a little bit about your background and how, what your company does and how you came about coming up with this idea?
Absolutely. So, trying to keep it short, many years ago in the early 90s, I was working for a national marketing company that would help large advertisers, negotiate their annual contracts with media companies. Mm-hmm. And I was there for a very long time, was their lead corporate trainer, headed many initiatives, started an international division for them, and thought I would retire there. And the company went into Chapter 7, which many companies did back in 2008.
That's right.
And so I was very lucky because everybody said, I don't know how to do this without you. So we need you. So I was immediately, even though I was 7 months pregnant, I immediately had, I was fine. Uh-huh. And because I'm located in Philadelphia, among the companies that wanted to work with me were the pharmaceutical companies. And so they hired me to help fill clinical studies. And even though I was paid by the pharmaceutical companies, I was working directly with medical practices and the study sites. And even though my role was just to bring leads into the practice, I was always taking it a step further because I was making sure that the leads actually converted into enrolled patients. And so that looked different for every practice. But to keep it short, doctors started referring me to doctors, and I became very well known for having the ability to help struggling practices grow.
That's amazing.
And so I was doing that. I grew many practices from struggling to not just on the right track, but multiple locations. And in 2012, one of my clients said, hey, I'm starting something new. You've got the business side. I've got the medical side. Why don't we partner? So I partnered with him. We built our own chain of 15 clinics and sold those clinics. And then after we sold our clinics, I started 6 of my own clinics, one at a time, but I grew my own set of practices. And in 2017, I kind of said, what am I doing? This is not ever what I set out to do. I was continuing to still consult everybody. I was keeping this other thing so that the practices were kind of just not my passion. So I sold the last one in 2017 and have been consulting ever since. And now I have, kind of a really 360-degree view as having owned, built, scaled, sold, started my own phone room for the chain of 15 clinics, and kind of every facet of the business I've seen. And now since 2017 I'm so lucky. I work with so many different types of practices, and kind of I feel like a unicorn. I don't know of anybody else who has kind of my background and experience. And so I have a really nice view of what's going on and how to help people overcome the challenges they're facing and help start scaling their practice.
Wow. Well said with the 360-degree view. You're right. As you were saying it, and I was just thinking, wow. So her company is basically the biography of all the experiences that Jessica Jones has acquired over years in the medical world.
Yes.
And
And
not,
I know I shared with you, first of all, I have, I work with dental practices. I know, much
that's right.
in that industry, but also way back, I mean, in the, mid to late 90s and early 2000s, I was doing a lot of radio for dental practices.
Wow.
So that was kind of the thing then. And then still today, I work with a lot of practices and a lot of people who support practices in different ways.
Oh, that's amazing. What was that like?
The radio for
Uh,
dental practices?
yeah.
Well,
Is it similar to what we're doing right now, the podcast?
no. So it's really interesting. There was this kind of dental focused ad agency that kind of was contracting with dental practices, and their whole idea was that you would do remotes and bring radio stations into your practice to draw in new audience that way.
Oh, I
And
see.
so that was, like I said, it was the late 90s, early 2000s, just to date myself. But experience is good. It's what what you need, right?
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely. That's how you can share your knowledge with us.
Yes, but at the end of the day, I would say it would absolutely not be a strategy I would recommend today. Everything has moved lightning speed into new ways of needing to reach out to your audience.
You actually mentioned a very good point there, very subtly though, I must mention, that it's true. With the time, you need to change or, be flexible to changes and adapting to what your audience or your clients or your patients may be open to.
Absolutely. I always tell people what got you where you are today isn't necessarily going to be what's going to get you where you want to be tomorrow. In fact, most likely it's not. You've got to constantly be paying attention to the external environment. A lot of business owners get so sucked into the minutia of the everyday running of their practice that they fail to see what's happening around them. And what's happening around them is going to be the caveat to help them grow or to cause them to falter.
That's right.
So it's very important that you always take a step back and pay attention to what's going on in the external environment. And I'm talking about not just like your neighborhoods, your population. I'm talking about regulatory changes, all of these factors that impact your business, right? New technologies, new things that are being offered. You do need to make sure that you're not getting stuck in the day to day and failing to see what's going to help you grow.
Right. But let me talk on their behalf for a second there.
Yeah, please.
But Jessica, I'm so busy catching up because I'm always feeling so far behind. I'm always trying to catch up. When am I going to have the time to, be on par with the current changes?
So there's where I would look at your staffing and see, are you so busy because you're a perfectionist and you don't want to delegate because people won't be doing things the way you do them? Are you understaffed? Are you not utilizing your staff properly? You've got to be able to carve out at least an hour or two for yourself, if not more, every week to work on your business. Meaning not on patients, on your business, on your strategies, on your growth, on the things you're going to need to learn to take you to the next level, right?
Right.
And some people I work with, they take that time in the evening or on the weekends, but I do also advocate, for some sense of balance, because if you lose that and you lose the passion, that's no good for you or your business or your practice or any part of your family, all of it.
Yeah, well said.
I do think it's important that you do take the time. In fact, a lot of people say, "Oh, well, I can take my lunch break." Well, no, that's not good for you either, because you do need to, you need to nourish yourself, the energy and the strength and wellness to take care of your practice and your patients and your employees.
It's funny, I feel like you're the second person I've heard this from, me being the first. I also advocate on telling my clients that you have to take a lunch break. And they're like, oh no, I'll get this done during this, that. I'm like, oh, when are you eating? Oh, I'll eat when I get the time. I'm like, wait, this is not going to work. You're going to burn out.
Yeah. And that's no good for anybody. In fact, I was talking with a client recently and she's so, you know, and I gave her this advice and she said, it's kind of crazy because just, she started working with me because she was so burned out. She got sick and she's like, literally
Yeah.
last week I was so sick.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I remembered you. And I was like, I need help,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm a one-on-one consultant. So everything I do is very specific to each client. And sometimes that's what it's about, helping you figure out, how do I have a life and grow this practice and grow
Mm-hmm.
this business,
Mm-hmm.
but not lose my family time and my marriage and everything else to the drive it takes to grow this business.
Yeah. And my
And you
sanity.
can do that. Your sanity. People say, oh, I can't hire anybody. I can't hire anybody. When you hire somebody, it shouldn't be looked at as costing you money. It should be looked at as saving you time so that it's going to pay for the person and it's
Mm-hmm.
going to ultimately make you money because it's going to put something into your practice that will help grow the practice, right?
Oh, that's an interesting perspective. I like that.
Yeah, and part of that is, okay, I'm going to hire this person. They're going to take this off my plate so that I, the owner, can focus on the big picture things that are going to make this company grow.
That's right.
So that I can hire more people, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting about that, because now I'm talking about scaling up and adding, it's not uncommon for me to talk to owners and say, you've got to scale back to grow. What I mean by that is, just as I suggest hiring somebody to take things off your plate, that can be part of scaling back to grow, meaning you're adding a person, but you're scaling back on the things you're trying to do. Because so many owners are trying to do everything.
That's right.
They're posting to social media. They think they need to be doing TikTok videos and
Mm-hmm.
YouTube videos and
Mm-hmm.
Facebook videos and Instagram reels. And it's like, okay, let's make a list of everything you're doing. If you're not enjoying any of these tasks, we're going to remove it, right? Because
Right.
it's taking up so much of your time and energy and you don't like it. And it's probably, if you don't like it, it's not doing your business any good.
That's right. The output, the quality of it,
Yeah.
it might be questionable.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's a process too, is really considering, what am I doing that I need to do? And what am I doing that I think I have to do that might not be actually providing any benefit to my growth, my business, or my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the things that people do need to do, when I say that, content is very important. Google reviews are incredibly important. Paying attention to those reviews are very critical because you've got to thank the people who leave a good review, but you've also got to respond to the bad reviews and let people know, I'm watching my business. I care about this review and I care about this person,
Mm-hmm. That's right.
and making things right. There's so much. I mean, it is. There's a lot. And in today's world, we've got more and more things. And what that also means is that our patients are getting more and more messaging, and the brain is really good about filtering out things that it deems unnecessary. So your messaging has to kind of break through the noise.
While making sure you're within the confines of HIPAA regulations.
Absolutely. Yeah, of course.
Now, when I'm looking at the name of your business, Build Your Cash Medical Practice, it makes me question. When you say cash medical practice, what are we talking about? Are we talking about not using PPOs, or are we talking about using your own funds to start the practice?
Oh, no. We're talking about, so, people say, oh, you don't work with insurance-based practices. Of course I do. But a lot of times I'm helping people add cash-based services to increase the cash into their clinic
I see.
or practice. So it can be adding services that are cash-based, not covered by insurance. It can be kind of converting over to try and, remove some of the panels that you're credentialed with, right? That are low pay, and keeping that patient, like trying to come up with the balance where the patients will stay, because ultimately them paying you cash out of pocket is going to be about the same as their copay had been. And you're going to end up ahead because the copay is so low that it's untenable.
I see.
right? There's a lot of people who are paneled with companies that just they see that patient on the schedule and they're like, oh God, it's like, so, removing, we do talk about removing some of those panels, right?
Hmm.
You know what I'm talking
I
about.
do
Yeah.
know what you're talking about. I'm just trying to.
Resonate with you?
Yes. Oh boy.
Quiet, I worry like, oh.
Uh, in the dental world, I feel like those services, a lot of that I see these days are aesthetic services. Just
Absolutely.
aside from
Whitening,
cosmetic, yeah, exactly. Botox, I see, and then some of them are getting into sleep therapy, treating
Yep.
sleep apnea.
Mm-hmm. It's actually a big one, like custom fitted, mouthpieces to prevent snoring
That's right.
in this.
Hmm.
Um, I even have dentists that I'm working with who are adding um, even more aesthetic services to the point that, I'm helping them get medical directions so that they can prescribe, weight loss medications and things like that, which is, it's
Okay,
not the,
that's amazing.
not,
I want you to talk more about this.
it's not the norm, but I do have at least two dentists that I'm working with who are adding weight loss as a service. And, they've got this large client base that trusts them. And they started branching out with aesthetics. And then they said, oh, whoa, I see that this is something that I can offer and, there's online courses where you can get certified. Now, prescribing these medications is out of scope, but
Mhm.
it's very simple to get medical direction in place and, affordable to get medical direction in place so that you can start offering GLP-1 medications. And it is a process, but I make it sound simple, but it is relatively simple. It's a step-by-step process
With
that
the
I
right
would,
advisor on your side.
yes, you've got to do it the right way. So you get the medical direction in place. You make sure that you're compliant with all of your state regulations. The medical director is overseeing that portion of your patient care. And either the medical director is doing direct patient care with you, or you're doing, you're having an initial visit with your patient and then you're connecting them to telehealth for a good faith exam.
I was just now going to ask you that can this
Yeah.
be done virtually?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I have practitioners who started working with me about 18 months ago or more. I have more than one who started in their field of care and have now went full time into weight loss and are venturing into new different revenue streams now that are not affiliated with their original practice,
Wow.
which is
Okay.
not my goal. I mean, my goal is for you to serve your passion and build the
Right.
business of your that gets you where you want to be.
Right.
But in doing this, they found, you know what, I really enjoy this. I actually prefer what I'm doing. I love this. And now I want to do more of this.
Yeah. You offer
And
them options.
yeah. And in doing so in fact, the one person I'm thinking of really was an insurance-based model who's originally started working with me just to start adding cash revenue streams. And now she's 100% cash out of her old contract business and moving right along.
Okay. That's good. So let's talk a little bit about this. Now,
Yeah.
if let's say somebody is considering this, right?
Yeah.
Considering utilizing your services.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking let's try to think of the most common kind. Single practice owning, started off, let's say, about a year ago, 2 years ago, was hoping to reach a certain, number in production or collections, and they're not there yet. So they're like, okay, I need to look for other options, see if there are other revenue streams that I can utilize, or maybe consider going out of PPO completely. And they reach out to you, right? And they ask you, how long, let's say you make your suggestions, and then they ask you, how long do you think it's going to take for the implementation?
Yeah, well, I know this is going to sound like a terrible response, but it's a true one. It really depends on you, your practice, your staff. I've got to tell you, sometimes, you know, I will start working with you and I start listening to, let's say, some appointment setting calls, and I can tell you that it's your front Desk staff is
Yes.
ruining your business.
Yes.
You know, they're particularly in dentistry and yeah, I hate to point out fields, but it's just the truth. Particularly, I find often in dentistry and chiropractic and PT, it's not uncommon for the person to love their provider, but they hate calling to make an appointment so much that they find a different provider because of something just off-putting in the front office staff.
Yeah.
You do need to look at your business and say, what is it that's preventing me from growth? Because I know I'm doing a great job and I love my patients and my patients love me. So let me look under the hood. What's causing the pinging in the engine, right?
Right.
So it can be, you know, something off with the staff. I mean, I can give you an example. It doesn't necessarily mean anything negative about it. It could just mean that the person's fulfilling the wrong role, right?
Right.
For example, I have a practice that was doing weight loss. And when I started listening to the calls, it was very obvious to me that the person setting the appointments was very uncomfortable. And when I started asking, I was like, well, you know, is it this? Is it that? Because there's something wrong there. And he said, well, I think she doesn't believe in the medication because she's like the type of person who can't gain weight. So she doesn't see the value in paying for weight loss. I was like, okay, well, isn't one of your other people on this medication? Yes. And it was as simple as switching those conversations to this other receptionist that was on staff and totally changed the business.
Wow.
So it's kind of knowing who your staff is, knowing their strengths, and knowing if that might be what's the challenge in your business, so to speak.
I see. Okay. So what I'm hearing is that the biggest challenge is setting the premise right, with the right team members, right qualifications, right, skill set for the roles that they'll fulfill. Once that's established, then it gets a little easier for you to maybe set an implementation time.
Yeah. And let me also say, I'm also a huge advocate of having a team meeting once a week. It can be 15 minutes long, but you don't want everybody to come in and just kind of get used to the day to day. And like there's, believe it or not, even in these active offices, you can go a whole day and not really connect with your staff on a level. So you want to share your goals and where you're going and get your staff excited about what you're doing. I see a lot of times a practice owner getting excited about something, adding it to the practice, and then like, oh, what's going on here? The staff is like, okay, now we're adding something new. There's nothing in it for me. It's just more work on my plate. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
And so it's really easy to do that. And some practice owners will add a whirlwind of revenue streams and just expect the staff to kind of carry it out. And so that's another thing that I see a lot of. And so with that, we just work on, okay, how do we implement this, get buy-in from the staff, get the staff passionate about it, because every single touch point in your practice makes a difference in how successful everything is. All the revenue streams, all the patient satisfaction, et cetera.
Well, how do you get the staff excited about the new services that you're about to offer? Yeah,
well, first of all, you've got to talk to them about it and have them ask questions and understand it. They might not buy into the service or the option or the opportunity that you're adding, but they do need to buy into how it's going to benefit the practice, and the health of the practice is ultimately the health of their position, right?
That's true. Yeah.
Sometimes we talk about different incentives for staff and things of that nature, but I would defer to you possibly on those measures, but I do make a lot of recommendations in those regards where it's appropriate.
Right. And I agree. And it's a good thing that you mentioned that, because sometimes that's needed.
Yeah.
Because I've had plenty of talks with clients where I ask them, what do you want to do for your staff? And, they want to give them the world, because they were the staff once upon a time. And they always reflect back on those times. It's like, oh, I remember when I used to work for a DSO and they used to, make me work so much. And I always promised myself, if I open up a practice, I will always be there for my staff. And I get that. I appreciate that. But the numbers have to also make sense.
I often recommend, and I run this by you, I'll tell you what I recommend. I often recommend, implementing, even a profit share system within a 401k or other measure like that. But the staff has to stay for 5 years or they don't it doesn't stay,
Mhm.
right? If they leave earlier than 5 years. So it works on giving an incentive, but making it
Reducing your
based on
turnover. Right,
loyalty,
right, right.
based on loyalty. I I would love to turn the tables on you a second. I have everybody reading Profit First right now. I'm not saying I have them doing it. I'm saying everybody's saying, "Oh, I just read Profit First, and I'm creating 20 bank accounts for my business."
Can I say something right here in my field?
Please,
Because
that's what I'm saying.
this is something I hear quite often, and I'll be honest. I'll be honest. Yes, that
We've
book has a
always.
lot of
What's
good
the
points, but what you just mentioned, this part, and it. And the thing is, it may apply to certain businesses. Does not mean that this can be used across the board. This is not one of those templates that can be used by everyone, at least not during the startup phase. So I always urge, please talk to your advisor about this. I don't understand the big benefit. I mean, conceptually, I do from the book, but you're not there yet to have 8 bank accounts where you're going to keep separate accounts for separate purposes. Let's get there first, and then we'll talk.
Thank God, because I don't have your background and expertise, but I always say you can accomplish something very similar using QuickBooks and creating,
Yeah. Absolutely.
different kind of categories
Right.
of money. And
Right.
it's a lot less complex than having all of these accounts. I mean,
Right.
you don't, too much complexity kills your
I agree.
capability.
I agree. Yeah.
And it's a lot to keep track of for people who don't have a financial background.
That is correct. And a lot of people will also tell you that sometimes, and I have to do this just because I see this. So 1 in every 6 dental practices are susceptible to embezzlement, fraud.
Yes.
A lot of times when you keep a lot of complicated systems, it makes it very easier for people with ill intentions to actually get away with these embezzlements.
Yes.
So
I absolutely. So I wasn't going to go there, but I have seen that. I have seen it firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
And it's absolutely, I mean, you have so much, we're talking about how much an owner has to pay attention to and wrap their arms around on the day to day. We're talking about not having time to carve out sometimes an hour or 2 a week to focus on the business. How are you going to focus on the money? You're not. You're going to let somebody else do it for you, right? And however vetted they are, unfortunately, there are people who have ill intent or who see an opportunity and grab it. And more complexity gives a greater ability to do that kind of thing.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, I've seen businesses when I really start to look under the hood, like you see like an Amazon order that went through and there's like a scooter in there with I'm like, well, how often is this happening? I wonder, right?
Uh-huh.
You know, there's a
Right.
scooter on this bill that went to your employee's address.
Right. Yeah.
So let's not dwell on that. But
That's true. That's true. That
I had to bring it up because it's right now. I mean, everybody is saying, "Oh, I just got this Profit First, and I'm creating all these bank accounts." I'm like, whoa.
No, you're making it easy. And that's why I brought it up, even though this episode is not about that. We have had episodes on that in the past. But
it's about growing your practice and to grow your practice, you've got to have a stable financial. You should be getting monthly reports. You've got to know where your money's coming in and where it's going out in order to grow it. Right?
And I know you're not trying to scare our listeners. You know, it is true. There's a lot to do as a business owner because you're an employer, not an employee.
Yes.
However, it is also important that you come up with a system. Make it easier on yourself, right? Carve out a specific amount of time per week. Doesn't even have to be every day. Per week, as she mentioned, you can call it CEO time or what have you. And just, knock out some of these things. And then please make sure to also implement some internal controls, like, printing out the production report once a day before going home. Make sure everyone in your office sees that you take a printout of that and you take it with yourself home, even if you're not looking at it. The point is you're setting a precedence that, he looks at his numbers or she looks at her numbers. So
that's
little things
exactly
like
right.
that. Yeah. Goes along.
I always say, some of the things I say, and, I was very lucky. I went through this leadership program at the University of North Carolina in my 20s. And it was things a lot of people never get, but if they do, they get it in their 50s and 60s. Right. And one of the great things I took away from that is you only have 100 problems a day. Everybody has 100 problems a day. And you can say, oh, no, I have 1,000 or I have that. No, everyone has 100 problems a day, and the idea behind it is it's what you focus on as a problem that's going to define your successes and your short, you know, I hate to say failures, and failures. If you're hitting a red light on the way to work and it extends your trip to the office by 5 minutes, and you're letting that ruin your day, you're not focusing on big enough things,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So, that's, focus on the big things, and that's how you're going to grow your practice. Focus on the things that are getting in the way so that you can get past them and overcome those challenges, and focus on the things that you can change that are going to bring in additional revenue, right? And that can be revenue streams, that can be adding to staff, that can be adding, ways to put yourself out there to the market, whether it's boots on the ground or digital or social media posts or blogging or, that kind of focus. But when you're making those things your focus, your practice should start to grow, right?
Right.
Too many people aren't focusing on anything like that. They might be sitting there thinking about growing their practice, but they're not doing anything about it because they don't have the time.
Time is
So you got to make
a
the
rare
time. You got to
commodity.
make the
Yeah.
time.
But that also brings me to the next point. If you have so much to do and you're just one person, how do you make the time?
Well, first things first. This isn't going to surprise you. I'm a big believer in investing in having somebody coach you and support you, whose job is to keep you moving forward, right? That's you've got to find somebody that you feel you can work with, you can listen to, and who can be a good sounding board for you, but who'll keep you moving forward, right?
Right.
I'm working with clients. We're meeting every week, and I'm making sure they keep moving forward on ideas and not letting these ideas get lost in the minutia of the day. We talked about also, utilizing staff and delegating. This is another thing that I see as a big business owner issue, is that they just hold on to things that they don't need to hold on to. Because this person's not going to do it the way I would do it,
Exactly. Yeah.
or if I give it to them, like, I'm worried it won't get done. Well, if you're worried it won't get done, then you've got to delegate, and you've got to make it clear, hey, this needs to get done. This is part of your job responsibility, right? And also accept the idea that when you do delegate, it might not be the way you would do it, but that's okay. Good, as long as it's good. And this is coming from somebody who would be deemed a perfectionist. Myself, I've learned good is good enough. You can't have 15 medical clinics operating in 15 different states and have perfection and have everything done the way you would do it. You just can't.
Yeah.
To grow, you have to let go of things and trust that good is good enough.
Absolutely. That's just hard to accept sometimes, right?
It is, but you genuinely, it's something I've learned, and I'm grateful for it, that you cannot grow if you're trying to hold on to everything, because you're just one person. You've got to let responsibilities go to other people, and you have to trust them to do it. And you have to accept that it's not going to be done to perfection or the way you would do it. And that's okay. Oh my gosh, social media. I can't tell you how many people insist on doing their own posting, even though it takes them hours. I'm like, hire somebody to do it for you. There are so many capable people who can do this better than you, and it'll take them an hour to do what it's taking you 6 hours to do. It's just like, so it's like, this is not what you do. This is not, I mean, you went to, you have this degree, you do what's under your degree, and let somebody else do the social media stuff for you. I promise you they'll do it better.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, I actually have a funny story on that. A client of mine, he was just like, oh, Ash, I don't want to spend so much on marketing. You know what? I'll figure it out. I'll do it myself. I'm like, are you sure? Do you know what this is? And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. And then a week later, he calls me. He's like, Ash, this is not working. Yeah, who do you have as a referral? And I'm like, wow, what happened? I thought you were going to give it a go yourself. And he was like, yeah, I did. let's just say it didn't work out. I'm like, no, I'm interested. What did you do? Walk me through it so I can tell my other clients not to do this. And he was like, well, first and foremost, I went and did a search on all the Instagrams and TikToks of my competitors. I literally kept a notebook of all the videos they posted, how long they were, who was liking it, what kind of hashtags they were using, and then what kind of content they were providing. And then later, I put a camera in my bedroom and I tried mimicking some of those dances, some of those moves. And I'm like, can I have a copy of those videos?
I want the blooper reel. If somebody's sharing that with me, I don't want the video. I want the blooper reel.
Right.
I want the things that got scrapped.
Right. Yeah. And he spent the whole week. He actually took a week off just for this to come to the conclusion that, no, I can't do this. I should hire someone.
You know what? That's good though. Mistakes are a gift. It's how we learn.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
He made a mistake and he learned really quickly, like, oh, no, this is not for me.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. And I'm happy. I'm like, he was able to tell, oh, there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just recording yourself and putting it out there. There's a lot there. I'm like, yeah.
There's so much. I mean, I'm a marketer and I've got to tell you, if I had a practice today, would I do radio, television, print for myself? Absolutely. Would I do social media for myself? No. There's just it's so complex.
It is.
Right? To do it well.
That's right.
Would I write my own landing page and copy? Probably. But I wouldn't actually put it together and put it out there.
No,
there's so many great people. I mean, there's thousands of people, but there are, a couple people who do it really well. And why not trust the people who that's all they do?
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
I see another mistake people made. You just mentioned something that's so huge. I can't tell you, I would say 9 out of 10 practices I talk to say, when can I cut back on my marketing spend? I'm like, what?
Ding, ding,
Never.
ding. Yes.
Increase your marketing spend. If you are not marketing, you don't have a business. And once you know that you can market and reliably know that you can convert, if you get 100 phone calls, if you can convert, X% to patients, and you know that statistic holds firm, then it's very easy mathematical formula to know if I increase my marketing, I'm going to increase the number of people I sign up as patients, right?
That's right.
And you increase your patients and then you add staff to handle those patients. And next thing you know, you're growing. And next thing you know, you have the ability to start a second location.
Right.
And I have it in an Excel chart that I go through and I show, like, if you spend $1,500 a month on marketing, this is where you're going to end up at the end of the year. But if you just increase it, by $500 a month until you see there is a point of diminishing return.
Right, of course.
So when you get to that point, you stop. It doesn't mean you don't spend more in marketing. It means you've maxed out on that platform. And now additional funds can go to test other platforms and see if you can get the same statistics there.
That is correct.
I don't want to, it would make you crazy, but when I sold my practices in 2017, I was spending $15,000 per week per location. And I knew that I was going to make, at minimum, usually a 2.5 to 1 ROI on that spend. And I also, in fact, if things, if it were slow, I'd add $1,000 because I was confident that if I put that additional $1,000 in, I would hit the number I needed to hit. But to get there, I started and I grew and you develop the formulas for how much am I spending for every lead that comes in? How much am I spending for each one that converts to an appointment? And what's my average, revenue for a person who comes in for an appointment? And it's just a mathematical formula at that point that you can rely on.
That's right.
It's exciting. And then you can say, oh my gosh, if I spend this much money, I can make this much money, right?
That's right. That's absolutely right. And the other thing I think we need to also focus on is it's not magic. It's not going to get you, patients overnight, right? You need to give it some time.
It's a good point. I see a lot of people jumping from one team to another, and that's really bad because marketing, we call it optimizing. It takes time for a campaign to optimize,
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And so if you're switching boom, 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 you're not giving the campaign enough time to optimize, and you're not giving all of the, all of the background that goes into it time to learn your business and help you, grow the success.
That's right. Absolutely.
And a person get to know you and work with a team and gain that trust and capability. People jump around way too much. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. I feel like with certain clients, they're so used to instant gratification to try to look for that.
Yeah.
In the working world as well.
I think, it's funny. I speak to a lot of people who think, in a month I'm going to be making X amount of money. And it's like, no, most businesses.
Yes.
Profitability comes over time. You've got to grow your business. And I do see people, the worst thing I see in ownership is when somebody's underfunded and they don't have money set aside because they assumed, oh, well, I'm going to be profitable at this point. You need to have money set aside to run your business.
Absolutely.
And also you need to know that when the marketing comes in, the people need to be cared for properly and cultivated. And what's going to make you successful over the next person, if everybody's doing the same thing with marketing, what's going to make you successful over another person is the patient experience. We can't forget that. And I think sometimes practice owners do, right?
Yeah.
It's like, no, you've got to cultivate the relationship and provide that experience that makes people say, this was great. I'm coming back and I'm telling all my friends, because that intangible marketing is what happens for you, right? On all these neighborhood sites. Hey, can anyone recommend a good dentist?
Oh, it's huge in the dental world.
Yes. And you want to be, without a doubt, the one that gets, all the, I second that person. I second that person. You want the people fighting to say, no, this is why I'm saying this person is better. And here's why. You got to go there.
Yeah. Yeah.
People do that for you if you're providing that experience.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
I can tell you right now, my dentist, my son fell and chipped his tooth and it went through his gum.
Oof.
I took one look at him and I was like, okay, he's definitely going to need stitches. But oh my gosh, I'm really worried about his tooth. My dentist was on her way driving to the beach and she turned around to come back. She was like, if it were my child, I would be worried like you.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes. Now, I'm not saying everybody's going to do that, but do you think I will ever go anywhere else? And do you think I fight for people to go to her when they ask me for a referral?
You just mentioned her on the podcast. So
I did.
That says a lot.
Dr. Erica Klein.
There you go.
Wayne, Pennsylvania.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So no, it is very powerful and effective. And you're right. The clients that I see growing tremendously well, it's the ones that are focusing on the relationship side.
Yes.
Absolutely.
The ones she never fails to ask me, how are the kids? Oh my gosh, how old are they? Have they graduated? Oh my gosh, I can't believe this. And Wow.
It's like part coming to family. It's like, oh, they know my kids, my family.
But you think that's natural, but I can't tell you how many times I'm working with somebody who that's not part of the process. And so it's an important part of the time together is every part of the staff needs to realize that every interaction is an opportunity to either make somebody love your practice or somebody say, I'd go somewhere else.
Yeah. You know what I think? Yeah, I think, because even on our episode just now, we talked about both sides. We talked about, focusing on the KPIs, amount of money you make per patient. And at the same time, we're also talking about the qualitative side of, catering to your patients. I feel like maybe some people, they mix it together or they just focus on one or the other. Where in reality, I feel like they both need to exist, but separately. You need to focus on the numbers, that carved out time once a week. And then the other times of the day, you do need to, care for your patients. Look at them as human beings, not just as numbers, not just as, okay, this person is worth $1,200 during the year, or that person's $1,800, or I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to get to know your patients. Even, I have people who like just keep notes, right?
Hmm.
They keep notes. And so they just kind of do a cheat sheet before they go in to see everybody. It works so well.
That does work really well.
It works so well. Just keep a little note and whatever your patient software is, or whatever, some people
Yeah,
still have paper files, whatever you're using, keep a
right.
note, keep little notes after each encounter so that you can say, "Oh, how'd that work out for you? Oh my gosh,
Uh-huh.
the value was huge."
Oh goodness. Yeah. No, it is. It is huge. And that's something I also advocate. And you just mentioned the same thing. It's like, yeah, all these softwares, they have a client profile page, and there's a note section. Just type out some things like, oh, in the process of closing their house, or blah, 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 is expecting a kid. And then just bring that up.
Yeah,
Uh,
6 months go by and you remembered that they just closed on a house. Oh
right.
my gosh.
Right. Exactly.
I can't believe you remember that. Thank you so
Exactly.
much. It's
Exactly.
amazing. You care about me
Exactly. You
in
you
this
see me
world
as a
of
person.
isolation and coldness and technology and no interpersonal interactions. You
Yeah.
actually remembered what
Right.
I'm doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Goes a long way. Oh my goodness. Well, it was a pleasure having you today on our episode, Jessica. Really, truly.
Oh, I'm honored and grateful to have been here. I really enjoyed speaking with you.
Same
Um,
here.
I loved, people didn't hear it, but coming in, we were laughing at the start.
Yes, we were.
So,
Oh,
truly honored. I appreciate you having me. I hope
absolutely.
I hope that this provides like some really good tips that people can take away and think about to incorporate into their practice.
I hope so too. And I'm fairly sure it will.
Yeah. There's got to be some nugget in there that's helpful, I'm
Right?
sure.
I'm sure. We talked about a lot. I'm sure there are at
If
least a
nothing
couple.
else, don't open 8 bank accounts after reading Profit first.
Yes. Thank you for that. Thank you, Jessica. Thanks for listening today. Be sure to subscribe to Beyond by Wings on your favorite podcast platform. For more information, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, or reach out to us on our website. You can also shoot us an email at info@eandassociates.com.